it on one side? On the other side?
All right, and everyone,
I missed hearing makeup.
Well, none of us except Dave, but he always does.
Are you going short? Yeah, it's pretty nice outside. Well, I'm not doing it.
Pastor, come on up. Everyone,
Can we take our masks off up here?
you probably should not. I'm taking it off to speak.
Works for me, sir.
Well, thank you everyone for coming today. It has been a remarkable time in getting everyone here together to chat a little bit about where we are going and what is going to be happening in the city of Kenosha. Kenosha is a community that is portrayed and not been as portrayed as I believe it should be. We are a wonderful community, a loving community, a hard-working community, a caring community, a community that came together after the violence that occurred in the city. And I think that is something that many of you saw as days went on and the situation improved. The events of last month don't represent who we are. And I want to go back a little bit of what occurred because I think it's important. Sunday night, after the shooting of Jacob, the city immediately called the National Guard. We made the request to the county made the request to the governor, and the governor responded. And I bring that out because I think there's a lot of misinformation on that issue. And I think it's important for all of you to know that. It's also important for you to know that the people who were doing the violence in the community, I do not believe are from Kenosha. The majority came from someplace else. The people in Kenosha have a right to voice their grievances through protest. We would never stop that from occurring. And I believe the people of Kenosha did that. They had a concern. They came out and they made sure we understood that we need to look at change and how we are doing things in our community. That point was received. People who came in afterwards that created violence are not acceptable and do not want them to be coming into our community to dictate who they think we are. The same goes for militia. Do not want them in the community. They are a hindrance to law enforcement to do their jobs, and they are a danger to the public and the people involved. The people of Kenosha did some wonderful things after this occurred. They stepped up. They helped their neighbor. They did what Kenoshans do. They love their community, and they wanted to make sure that people who were hurt, people who had damages, that they were going to be there to help them, and they did. A number of months back, George Floyd was killed in Minnesota. And at that point in time, this community started looking and saying, we need to take a look at what is going on, because it is something that was happening not just in Minnesota, but across the country. We needed to take a look at racism. We had to take a look at how we are going to deal with issues in our community, because they don't go away just because someone wants them to go away. They have to be worked at. And as a community, we need to do that. For many years, I have been working with the clergy and having meetings with them on a quarterly basis, talking with them about different issues in the community. My first call was to Pastor Peoples and the clergy. After the George Floyd killing, we wanted to start to do something. What did we need to do? How could we start to do it? And I felt that the clergy was the perfect and the right group to go to. because they have been meeting with me for the last 4 years. Pastor Peoples and the clergy agreed to take this issue on. And because of that, we began moving forward a number of months prior to Jacob's shooting. Not fast enough, but we were moving forward. We were attempting to deal with the issue of racism. We were attempting to deal with the issue in our community and to make sure that we solved our problems. We created a vision, a roadmap, if you'd like, as to where to go and how to do things. We started looking at committees that would be appointed and put together. We were looking at police-community relationships. We were looking at criminal justice. We're looking at employment and education. And all those together, though, becomes one more piece that is so very important, and that is the youth, our young people. They're the future. They're the ones that we need to make sure that they see a light that they can grasp and attain better than what they think they can do. And that's going to be up to us to start putting the roadmap together to enable that to occur. And that's why these committees are being put together. There is one other issue that I'm going to bring up, and it's not in the script, so everyone can yell at me later. There is a mental health aspect to all of this. And this community needs to grasp and deal with that mental health problem. And that is something that has not occurred to the degree it needs to. We need the hospitals to step up for a mental health facility. We need the county to step up to help with the funding. We need the city to step up and help with making it happen. I believe so strongly that that is an issue that if we don't deal with, we're still going to have numerous issues within our community. So I throw that out as I said, something that I'll hear about later on that was not where we were supposed to be going as to what the main issues here are. But I feel so strongly about it. The focus that we're now dealing with is because of the Jacob Blake shooting. We need to accept the fact that we have issues, and we need to deal with them. And to do that, there's only one way for success to occur, and that is community involvement. We have to have everybody involved. It will not work if city government says, we're going to do this. It will not work if county government says, well, we're going to do this. If we are not listening to what the people have to say, we are doomed to fail. So as the first step of what we are doing is to start setting our listening sessions. Next week, Sunday, the 20th, we will start our listening sessions, and there'll be a press release given out to everyone with more information defining out sessions and where they are and how to get information about them. We have a gentleman, Ken Bergerant, who is from the Department of Justice, who is helping us put together these hearing sessions and will be leading these sessions, in which I will be at attendance and others. The feedback from the community is the stepping stone for the road forward. Our map, our roadmap to the future is going to depend a lot on the information we are given at these committees. We are there to listen. I have said from day one, the first part of healing is listening, not talking, listening. And that's what we're starting to do. So next week, we'll begin the first listening sessions, and it will be run by Ken Bergerant from the Department of Justice, U.S. Department of Justice. Pastor Peoples will speak more on this, and I will turn it over to him shortly. But I also want to make sure that I talk to you a little bit about some of the programs and processes that we're following. We're in the middle of budgets. And so there are some things in the budget that are going to be occurring that I have presented or will be presenting to the Common Council for their support. One of the issues is the expansion of community policing. So there will be more funding for officers and patrols for community policing possibilities or in community policing neighborhoods. There will also be body cams moved up. Body cams were budgeted for 2022. They are going to now occur in 2021. So that will be an allocation that will occur in the capital improvements budget approved by the council. And then funds for training. And someone's going to ask me, well, what training are you going to do? The training we're talking about is going to be determined as we review the policies and procedures of the police department. As the committees work forward and we start focusing on the changes that need to be made, I need to make sure there is money available so that we can actually implement. So funds are going to be allocated, not described, but allocated for more training. I do, and I'm terrible at this, I did not introduce anybody. I apologize. Terrence, I do it all the time, Wortham, has been with me throughout many of these conversations, and I appreciate him being here. Tim Mahone is also here. He's in the back. Pastor Peoples is going to introduce the clergy for me. I also have up here Jan Makowski, who is an alderman, David Bagdala, who's the president of council, who will speak, Rocco Lamacchia, the head of the public safety and welfare, and Eric Hallgard, also an alderman from the district, and Bill Seal, and Anthony Kennedy, all of which are here, and you like how I did that, didn't you? I know. All of them are here in support of knowing that we need to change, and we're going to. With that, I'm going to turn this over to Pastor Peoples, and then Alderman Bagdala. Pastor.
Pastor.
Before I get started, I want to say that I'm glad to be here today. And I want to thank the mayor for his love of this city. And first thing I want to say that I'm glad to see all of you here. Before I get started talking about commitment to action roadmap in our listening sessions, what I want to do, first of all, is just mention the men that's here, the clergy that is here right now, that is standing with me today. And that would be Lawrence Kirby from Acts Church of Kenosha, Reverend Jonathan Barker from Grace Lutheran Church, and Pastor Monroe Mitchell from Agape Love Church. And these men has been not only praying for this city, but these men has been standing in the gap and helping me into a fashion and put the foundation to what we're trying to do. I want to thank the mayor again for his love for this city, and I want to say that I'm just happy to be here to share some of the details. Our message is simple. It's all about healing. And we're here to unify and heal the inequalities that is in our community, injustice that we have seen, and lack of opportunities that is in Kenosha. We want to focus on moving Kenosha forward by reconciliation, rebuilding, and bringing hope to the people in our community. We can't do this if we don't start with the foundation of just listening. While we have seen the recent and shocking things that's happened to Jacob Blake, and to the death of the protesters and the extreme looting and rioting where it caused damage to our community. Of course, none of us condone looting and burning. It has been discouraging. And not only has it been discouraging, it has driven us home to this urgency and this plan that we need to build our community. The community engagement process will be vital to the development of the roadmap. and the ownership of this plan. Once it is ready to be implemented across our city, I emphasize this: engagement, because I know as a pastor how important it is to listen before you act. It's if you just act without listening, it becomes your agenda. But I think it should be the people agenda so that we can heal and move Kenosha forward. It would ensure that the doors are open for all residents to become stakeholders in our city. The goal of Kenosha Commitment to Action is to address systemic racism as it relates, as the mayor says, police relations, criminal justice systems, employment, and education that's in our community. We're working closely with what we call emerging young leaders in our community to prioritize the needs and integrate into our roadmap some of their needs and a vision for moving forward. Because we think that this is important. We must sustain this from generation to generation. For now, though, it is important to understand we're taking the issue concerning our community seriously. And we'll begin with our listening sessions. The mayor has mentioned we're going to start 4 listening sessions starting on 9/20. Those sessions will be 2 hours. And the objective of these listening sessions is to allow the residents of the city of Kenosha an opportunity, first of all, to grieve together and to hear from each other as we plot this path to peace and unity and healing through the facilitated process. We will make, as he said before, these sessions available by any means, including our virtual, and they're going to be announced later on through various media outlets. This roadmap is a working process, and I want you to remember this. This is what I want to leave you with. It's a working progress. It will evolve and get stronger as we go. And I want to say this. This community, called Kenosha, is resilient. This community, called Kenosha, love each other. This community, called Kenosha, will stand on the hope that we all believe in. And this community has great faith that runs through the thread of our community. This is what makes us strong. This is what's going to help move Kenosha forward. Thank you.
This time I'm going to call up Alderman Bogdala, who's got a couple of comments on the economics.
Good morning, Mr. Council President. How are you feeling?
Very good, thank you.
Good. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is David Bogdala. I'm the Alderman of District 17 and the President of the Common Council here. First of all, I want to thank you, Mayor, for your leadership through a very difficult time. But I also want to thank my colleagues who are here today. I know many of them couldn't join us here today, but I think it's important to note that this council is united. We're united at the task at hand. I can't tell you how many phone conversations I've had with the ladies and gentlemen of our council over the last several weeks. We didn't always agree on various items. But this is one thing we're united on. We are going to do what's right for Kenosha, and we're going to be there to support our constituents, our businesses, our police department, to make sure that we're doing right by them. I think that's very important. I want to thank them for being here today. In addition to serving this city as an alderman, I'm also a transplant. I moved here from Illinois nearly 20 years ago with my family because I could see the potential that this community had, and I still believe this community still has that potential. Even after all we've been through, we still are the place that I want my family to grow up in, and I want your family to grow up in as well. We've accomplished a great deal under Mayor Antaramian's leadership. We stand here today where large manufacturing, auto manufacturing once stood We went through a tumultuous time back then. Unfortunately, I was just a kid back then. But we went through a lot. And here, on the ashes of that, we see a beautiful Kenosha lakefront. We see a beautiful museums. We see a lot of things that we didn't dream that could have happened 20 or 30 years ago. So can you imagine what, if we all work together and united, what we can commit to and what this new Kenosha can look like in the future? What this commit to action plan the mayor has put together in this team is just a great start. There's great ideas and participation that are going to be forthcoming and are important. And enacting these great ideas is going to require funding. It's going to require funding from the state. It's going to require funding from the federal government. It's going to require funding on our part, from our friends and partners in the county. This is not going to be something that we're going to be able to do on our own. The mayor has already referenced the pledge of financial support that was made by the president, as well as funds we are seeking from the state of Wisconsin to aid in our efforts to rebuild our destroyed businesses and strengthen our pool of resources for our businesses whose growth and success will benefit all of us. As we continue to secure funding and identify additional funding sources, and there's going to need to be a lot of them, these opportunities, investors in the city, we will let you know. We will keep you apprised of this as this development goes on. We've been far more open about new technologies, about social media. We have a new Twitter page. We have an Instagram page, our website. We have tried to be more open and put more information out there, which I think is important, something that we were lacking in doing over the years. And I think now we're taking those positive steps to make sure that we're keeping all of you informed, all of our constituents informed. I think it's very important that we have that. So in closing, again, there's a lot of work ahead of us, but I think what's important is that this council is united. The city is going to be united. And what I've seen over the course of the last several weeks is the reason that I moved my family here to Kenosha. It's a Kenosha that is together. It is a Kenosha that's resilient. And it's a Kenosha that continually reinvents itself all throughout the decades. And we will do it again. We will do it again together. With that, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Thank you, Pastor Peoples. Thank you, David. I also want to introduce Dr. Pritchard, who is here, and Andy Berg from the county board, who is also with us today. In closing, the roadmap and the listening sessions are going to be the future for our community. It will help guide us to dealing with the issues that we need to deal with as a community. A community is only as strong as its weakest neighborhood. We need to make sure that we are working in all the neighborhoods. We need to make sure that we are enabling people to succeed and prosper. We need to make sure that as time goes on, we correct the problems that we need to deal with. In the past, a lot of times some things would happen and we'd pass resolutions or we do these different things and it always sounded good. I talked to a number of young people this last week to find out what their thoughts were of what occurred and how they perceived the situation. And one gentleman who I talked with hit on a number of issues, but two stuck in my mind. First one, what are the outcomes? What are we going to be doing that's going to change the outcomes of what's going on? And who's responsible? And my answer to that is actually rather simple. The outcomes are going to be the responsibility of us as a community to make sure change occurs. But the person responsible is me. And that is my responsibility to take it. The council is there to help give support and get things done. But in the end, down the road, it's going to be my responsibility to make sure that we changed. And with the support of the council, we will do that. With support of the people, we will do that. And that, I think, is the main focus of what we must do. We will start with the listening sessions, because we can make no change without listening. That is going to be the key of what we do. So that's where we will start. I'm not going to sit here and tell everyone, oh, gee, this is going to be quick and we're going to fix everything and it's all done tomorrow, because if we start believing that, then nothing's going to happen. This is a long-term process. We need to start today, and we need to keep it going, not just tomorrow, the next day and the next day. We need to keep it moving for the future, because this isn't going to be just one issue and done. These are a number of issues that we need to deal with. We need to make sure our young people are taken care of. We need to make sure they have a future, and we as a community need to move forward. We are not going to be like other communities and pretend like this is going to go away. It isn't. We will deal with it, and that is my commitment to the public and to the council. We are going to move forward. We are going to work on our problems, and we are going to solve our problems on a long-term basis. So with that, I will answer questions or open up to questions. However, I'm going to be very selective here, only one per group.
Mr. Mayor, can you tell us how can the public get involved in these listening sessions? I see that there's going to be a capacity limit.
There is a capacity limit. However, we also, because of COVID, we're doing the things we need to do to protect everyone. We are also going to be having a lot of this on the online, so that people can be involved and see it. Plus, we're going to have people who aren't able necessarily to be at these events to be able to then forward to us their comments, so we can tabulate, put it all together, and look at what is going on. So our goal is to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to give us their feedback.
So will it be a first come, first served basis?
I think initially it'll be a first come, first served, but I think also we are going to try to make sure that there are a number of groups that are out there. We want to make sure that we get those groups in, at least one individual for each of those groups, so that we will get some input from a larger base. But basically, first come, first served, with some opportunity to make sure that we keep things open for people.
Mayor,
Yes.
You talk about how this is a long-term process, a lot of issues that you're dealing with. What's your measure of success? How will you know that you're having an impact?
I think I'll know I'm having an impact when I walk the streets and I talk to people and people say, we're doing fine, we're getting there, we're moving forward, and people have opportunity. That's when I'll know we've succeeded. Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I've talked to a lot of people in the community who were talking about during the nights of the protests that there wasn't enough of a police presence to protect their neighborhoods. They had to arm themselves and protect their own homes and that sort of thing. And I'm wondering if that's the sort of thing that also you'll be talking about in these plans in terms of just the police response to something like this. And why was it sort of slow in the neighborhoods, according to you?
Well, literally, and that's why I did bring up initially the issue with the guard. When the situation occurred with Jacob Blake's shooting, the city basically called in all the surrounding neighborhoods. You know, we all have Mavis agreements. We have people, law enforcement who comes in from all over the place when situations require it. At Sunday night, early in the evening, I made a request for the guard to come in, because it looked like things were not, things were getting out of hand, and we wanted to make sure we got the guard in as quickly as possible. So we made that request. Governor approved the request, but it takes the guard, and the general was here earlier and made the comments before of how long it takes the guard to get here. So the guard was brought in, and then the numbers were increased on a daily basis. I think that part of what occurred here, though, is that a lot of people started coming in from other places, and that definitely created some of the problem we have. Yes.
I know everything's still fluid right now, obviously, we're still trying to do our aftermath of everything, but has there been any talk or any short-term plan for even addressing damage or business owners and residents affected in the downtown area and everything?
At the present time, we made a request immediately to the state. State has come forward with $1 million that they're going to bring into the community. Federal government, we've requested funds also, and the city will be looking at what we can do to be helpful in the sense of moving material and getting the sites cleaned up as quickly as we can. there is no, again, we have limited dollars just like every other community. And so what we're doing is we're trying to leverage state and federal help as best we can, and actually a lot of public support that has stepped forward and actually tried to help a number of these businesses.
And just kind of a second question on that.
You only get one, but go ahead.
Thank you for that.
Don't cause me trouble with everyone else, thank you.
But no, a lot of people are concerned, because both downtown and uptown are affected, how is the city going to make sure that both are receiving proportionate funding?
I don't know, excuse me, I don't know that I look at it as proportionate funding. We're going to try to take care of the people who need help and work with those. And I would also tell you that it's not just the uptown and downtown that got hit. There are other areas of the city that were also damaged in the situation. And there's also the issue of neighborhoods themselves. One of the things I think we make, I shouldn't say we make a mistake, but people make the mistake of saying, well, it was the uptown, it was 22nd Avenue, other than that, that's not a problem. Wrong. That impacts that whole neighborhood. It impacts where they shop, it impacts all sorts of things that need to be addressed. So it is not just 22nd Avenue, uptown, downtown, and in between. It is a number of neighborhoods that are impacted, and we have to deal with that. Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit?
Hold on, here, and then the young lady over there, and I'll come back to you.
I noticed the Kenosha Police Department and Sheriff's Office here, or at least don't have a representative here. Are they going to be involved in the listening session?
Yes, the police department will be involved in the listening sessions. I cannot speak for the sheriff's department yet. We're making thank you, overtures to them also to be there. I would imagine they will be, but at the present time, the police department will be there. Yes.
Mayor, you talked about funding, you said that you received, you said $1 million from the state. Can you kind of paint the picture for us? What does Kenosha need? Where have you gotten the funds from, and what more do you need, so we might be able to share that info?
I requested almost 2 weeks ago, $30 million for the community, and I had not had any solid numbers at the time. And the new number that's been floating around has been about 50 million as to what the needs are. So we have been in contact with the state. We've already talked to them, met with the economic development arm of the state literally 4 days ago, chatted with her about some potential opportunities, and so they're looking into that and they're going to get back to us. We've also made a request to the Department of Revenue, Secretary Barca, who is trying to put together a number of department heads to come down and talk with us and with a number of the business people that are impacted by that. We've also been in contact and will be continuing contact with WIDA and HUD and some of the other groups that we need to pull in and start talking with on how do we do some rebuilding. So all of those things are in process of starting the conversation, but that is where we're at. It's just starting. I'd love to tell you that we had all these things done. We don't. There's only so much that you can get done at this last 2 weeks that we're able to do, but all those things are being started. So we are looking at the neighborhoods. We're looking at what we can do to improve the situation for the people living in the neighborhood and for the businesses that have been damaged. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
I think during all of this, we've all kind of taken a little bit of an introspective look at ourselves too. You said that ultimately this is your responsibility. Tell me a little bit about how you have been looking at what you've done in the past and maybe failed to do in the past.
Well, I'll tell you all the wonderful things I've done in the past, and I'll tell you where I think I failed too. Previously, and for those of you who don't know, I have been mayor now for 20 years. I was mayor for 16 years and I retired. I came back 4 years ago. In that first 16 years, we had a very aggressive housing program in the neighborhoods, where we were actually building homes and subsidizing for the people living in the neighborhood that they could actually own their own home. And we targeted the neighborhood in the sense of people who lived there, that they were the ones we were trying to make sure could purchase the home. So it was subsidized down to make that viable. We used all the different programming funds that we had, created a situation. In fact, had students at the high schools. Every year, the city would fund one house that basically a carpenter would come in and would basically bring on 4 or 5 students from the high school and actually have them build a house. Then sell the house, we take that money, put it back into another one. Again, the city subsidized it. But for our perspective, it worked in helping the neighborhood, and it created the situation of home ownership in the neighborhood. And the goal has always been 50% home ownership in the older neighborhoods. When you have 50% home ownership, everybody wins. The individuals who are renters start participating more in the neighborhood because it is their neighborhood, and people care. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that people want to have decent housing, that people want to live in a neighborhood that's safe, and that they themselves want to participate. And that's what we discovered occurred in the Lincoln neighborhood. It was an excellent opportunity of what we did and improved. We created infrastructure in the neighborhoods. We started spending money in the older neighborhoods. We started doing the things that I believe are necessary on a long-term basis, going back to my statement earlier, that literally the neighborhood that is the most in need is how your community is defined. If you can't work in your older neighborhoods, then you can't work anyplace. You need to deal with it. So we attempted, and I think we succeeded in many cases, of doing those kind of projects. We did all sorts of infrastructure in the older neighborhoods. We spent the money in the neighborhood. We did the things that youth programs. We had I have to take credit for this. I stole it from somebody else. It's called the YAY program, Youth Employment in the Arts. If you drive around the city, you'll find all sorts of murals all over the place that young people did, and not one has ever been damaged because the kids did it. It was their work. Those are the things that we were working on that I believe worked. We helped fund the Boys and Girls Club to get them off the ground. The city did all those things in an attempt to work with the community and get things done. And there's a lot of other things that I could probably go into, but I do not wish to bore you with that. You're more interested in where I failed, so I'll let you know where I failed. 20 years ago, there were a number of issues that we were dealing with on the racial side. And a gentleman named Ken Bergeron, who actually is coming back again, was brought into town by the NAACP and sat down and worked with us on our issues. And it was a very, very, in fact, Alderman Kennedy was involved, though he wasn't alderman in those days, was involved in those meetings, as well as a number of other groups. And we spent about a year working on different issues. And we actually came to some solutions on those issues. My mistake was I didn't keep that committee together. And I refuse to make that mistake a second time. I'm getting too old to make too many mistakes here. We didn't do it then. We should have kept that committee going, and when you ask me for my mistakes, that is the one I always think of as the biggest mistake I made. What we're doing this time with Pastor Peoples and the other people here involved is we're looking at this on a long-term basis. I am here for a period of time. They're going to be here a lot longer. Whoever follows me is going to be here, and they're going to have to work with these committees to make sure they continue, because that is the way we solve our problems. And if you want another problem, I don't have one. That's it. Yes.
Mayor, you talked about refitting body-worn cameras and also increasing community policing.
Yes.
When exactly are body-worn cameras going to happen, and when are you going to, how exactly are you increasing community policing?
We're putting funds in the city budget. We're working on, right now I'm putting together the budget. And once I put the budget together, it'll go to the Common Council come October. In November, the Common Council will start moving it forward. By December 1st, they'll pass the budget for next year. Or not December 1st, December 5th, right in that neck of the woods. They then will pass the budget. In that budget then will be these other funding sources that I need to come together and put together to enable us to move forward on those projects. So that's how it'll work. Yes?
The voice of the people are entitled doors right there.
Mm-hmm.
Would you mind if you let them in?
Actually, I already told them that when we're done here, I'll go out and I'm going to sit down and talk with them.
Thank you.
Mayor, could you talk about the role of the Department of Justice? Is it a helpful one at this point, and what are they doing?
Well, the Department of Justice, the U.S. Department of Justice, which is Ken Bergeron, is with the community relations aspect of the Department of Justice. They come in and work with communities on issues of racial issues or any other types of specific issues that you may have that they are qualified to deal with. So he is coming in to do that. So at my request, like I said, he's very, very good and someone who I have a lot of faith in that will help us. Only one. I got into trouble already with this one over here. Anyone else? If not, I'm going to do one more. Yes?
Can you speak to the raise orders, please? There are raise orders all town.
There,
When did they happen? What's the deal with it?
there are no, I mean, the raise orders, there, to my knowledge, and I'll be careful here because there may be something I don't know, most of the raise orders and everything else are going to be hinged upon the insurance companies and the time frame working with them. The city has not, to my knowledge, gone out and put any raise order on any building at the moment. Because in fairness, it's going to take a couple of weeks for them to do the things they need to do with the insurance companies. We need to do some of the stuff that we still need to do. I do know that we did talk with the DNR because there's an issue of disposal of material. So we've already cleared that up for the people in the uptown and downtown areas if they have buildings that have to be removed. Because basically there's asbestos and mixed material. How do you dispose of that? We sat down with the DNR, worked that out with the DNR so that these folks have a process to move forward and we can do things for them. All right. With that, I do want to thank you all for being here. I know that I've got a meeting with a couple of folks out in the hallway for a little bit. And then I appreciate you all being here.
Thank you, Mayor.
Hey, how are you?
Thank you. You got it?
I did the elbow bump.